जाएं क्योंकि एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सेशन जो है हमारा प्लेनरी सेशन, और ये पहला सेशन है इस तरह का जिसमें हम डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स और ख़ासतौर जो पब्लिक डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं उनका इस्तेमाल करते हुए आम से आम व्यक्ति को, जो समाज का अंतिम जन है, उसको हम किस तरह से एम्पावर कर सकते हैं, किस तरह से उसे क्षमतावान और सशक्त बना सकते हैं, इन बिंदुओं को लेकर चर्चा इस सेशन में होगी। इसलिए आप सभी कृपया अपने अपने स्थान पर बैठ जाएं क्योंकि ये सेशन हम इसकी शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं। अब प्लीज you are requested to take your seats, please. Later on, after the session, we can have photographs, but right now, you all are requested to take your seats. देवीय सज्जनों, माननीय रेलवेज, कम्युनिकेशंस, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी मंत्री भारत सरकार श्री अश्विनी वैष्णव जी का आगमन यहाँ हो चुका है। आप सभी प्लीज़ अपने अपने स्थान पर बैठ जाएं। मोबाइल फ़ोन प्लीज़ इंश्योर कि आपका मोबाइल फ़ोन साइलेंट मोड पर है। और ये सेशन अब हम शुरू करने जा रहे हैं। जैसे कि आप जानते हैं कि इस सेशन को जो हमने डेडिकेट किया है एम्पावरिंग सिटीजन्स लिवरेजिंग पब्लिक डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म्स, इस सेशन को चेयर करने के लिए हम सबके बीच यहाँ मंच पर होंगे आदरणीय अश्विनी वैष्णव जी, ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एंड ऑल्सो रेलवेज एंड कम्युनिकेशन। इसके अलावा श्री अलकेश कुमार शर्मा जी, सेक्रेटरी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, श्री के राजारमन, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस, श्री पराग जैन, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी आईटी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, और मिस देवजानी घोष, प्रेसिडेंट नास्कॉम। और इस सेशन के रैपोर्टियर और मॉडरेटर होंगे श्री अभिषेक सिंह, प्रेसिडेंट एंड सीईओ एनईजीडी, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा ऑनरेबल सेक्रेटरी अलकेश कुमार शर्मा जी, श्री के राजारमन जी, श्री पराग जैन जी और मिस देवजानी घोष से कि वे प्लीज़ स्टेज पर आकर अपनी जगह ले लें। आई विल रिक्वेस्ट ऑनरेबल सेक्रेटरी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी अलकेश कुमार सर शर्मा जी, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस के राजारमन जी, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी आईटी महाराष्ट्र श्री पराग जैन जी एंड मिस देवजानी घोष, प्रेसिडेंट नास्कॉम। देवियों सज्जनों, आइए करतल ध्वनि के साथ स्वागत करें ऑनरेबल अश्विनी वैष्णव जी, मिनिस्टर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, रेलवेज एंड कम्युनिकेशन, जो आज के इस सेशन की अध्यक्षता करने के लिए हम सबके बीच पधारे हैं। और इस सेशन में हम हार्दिक स्वागत करना चाहेंगे अलकेश कुमार शर्मा जी, सेक्रेटरी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, श्री के राजारमन, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस, श्री पराग जैन, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी आईटी महाराष्ट्र, and Ms. Devajani Ghosh, President NASCOM, and Shri Abhishek Singh ji, President and CEO NEGD, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology। आइए एक बार आप सबके करतल ध्वनि के साथ इस पैनल में शामिल सभी विभूतियों का हम स्वागत करें, अभिनंदन करें और साथ ही मैं निवेदन करूंगा श्री अभिषेक सिंह जी, जो कि मॉडरेट भी करेंगे इस सेशन को, कि वे इस सेशन की शुरुआत करें, इसे इनिशिएट करें।
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to welcome our Honorable Minister, Shashwini Vaishnav-ji, our Secretary Telecom, Secretary MeitY, Debjani Ghosh, President NASSCOM, and Parag Jain from Secretary IT Maharashtra to this inaugural session, the first plenary session on empowering citizens by leveraging public digital platforms. We all know how technology has been the cornerstone regarding enabling public services in the last few years. Both our Honorable Vice President, sir, and Honorable Minister of State for Personal and Public Grievances, Mr. Jiten Singh, mentioned about various initiatives and how civil servants across the country use technology for enabling COVID vaccination, how it has been used for aspirational districts, how it has been used for direct benefit transfers, how technology has been at the core of aspirational districts program, all indicators. So without much ado, we're short of time, so we'll try to make up as much as possible. I would invite Secretary MeitY, Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, to make the lead presentation on empowering citizens by leveraging public digital platforms.
Honorable Minister for Electronics and IT, Communications and Railways, Shri Ashwini Vaishnav-ji, my senior colleague, Mr. Rajaraman, Secretary Telecom, Ms. Devjani Ghosh, President NASSCOM, my colleagues Abhishek and Parag, very distinguished senior colleagues, junior colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a matter of great privilege for me to be here this morning on this important topic, empowering citizens, leveraging public digital platforms. India's digital transformation journey, in fact, is a model for the world today. India's digital revolution is empowering the underprivileged, unlocking new opportunities for their growth, and building and bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. With mobile phones, cheap data, and digital sources at their fingerprints, every Indian is able to explore new possibilities today. And I think it is in this background that the theme of empowerment of citizens through public digital platform is well thought to demonstrate power of public digital platforms to empower the people. Now, the meaning of empowerment, how do we empower our citizens? There are many ways of citizens need our engagement to empower them. It begins with the quality standard of living so that the basic government services, including health, education, agriculture, occupation, are all available to them with ease. It has to be on-demand integrated services. It should be the whole of government approach rather than services being available in isolation. Transparency in processes, so that citizens, they want to have a visible and clear understanding of processes, which is non-discriminatory. Time-bound delivery, most important. I think we are living in an era of Amazon, Uber, and Swiggy. The moment citizen applies for service, he wants to know by what time he's going to get delivery. I think the same standard we have to put in our government. Effective administration. It has to be a result-oriented administration. Greater opportunities have to be given to citizens to better their lives of their families and the societies. There has to be an efficient system for optimal utilization of government resources. The accountable officers, so that the citizen want to know who he should contact in case of any need, any issue, or any grievance. And the social well-being of our citizens. I think it is in this background that the digital public platforms have demonstrated how we have been able to take it to the next level. Now, if you look at the JAM Trinity, which started in 2015-16, the Jan Dhan accounts, the Aadhaar, and the mobile phone. I think they have really transformed, and they became the fundamental building block of our digital transformation. When almost 460 million accounts were opened, 1.37 billion Aadhaars are available now, and with 1.15 billion mobile phones, I think we are at the cusp of providing citizen services at the click of a button now. Some of the public digital platforms we have actually helped in enabling empowerment. I'm just listing some of those which India has pioneered and developed these inclusive public digital platforms. Aadhaar has laid a world-class digital identity platform with, of course, a billion-plus population. UPI, again, one of our major digital payment platform, where last month we had 8.6 billion transactions, and 45% of world's total digital transaction is now happening in India. DBT was another prominent where the benefits are now being directly transferred, plugging the leakages. That's another one. Then we have DigiLocker. I'll be talking about this. Umang, MyGov. These are some important platforms. The MyGov is a citizen engagement platform which actually helps in policy making, in decision making, and also in 18 states, the MyGov has been expanded now. We have also launched some new platforms in recent years. Meri Pehchan, which is the national single sign-on platform, My Scheme, which is a service delivery platform, and the Digital India Bhashani, which is basically a national language translation mission. I'll be talking about them in a little detail a little later. Now, this is not only, these were the public platforms we have looked at, but then these public platforms are now getting integrated into stacks so that they are able to provide end-to-end ecosystem and end-to-end service delivery to the citizens. Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, now it has been able to integrate most of our services in hospital, whether it is hospital services, the consultative services through eSanjeevani, Portion Tracker, which takes care of the nutrition as well as reproductive and child health care. These have been integrated now and doing quite well. Similarly, in education, the National Digital Education Architecture, which is again an integrated architecture where Diksha, Swayam, PM Vidya, as well as PM Portion, which tracks the nutrition status of school children, are also have been integrated and are doing quite well. And these have actually empowered citizens. These have actually helped all citizens, whether it is student, youth, in availing services. Sectoral platform in agriculture. Now, AgriStack is the next which is being developed, which aims to deliver integrated agriculture services to the farmers, which is the backbone of, in terms of number of people engaged in our economy. So this unified farmer service interface is being developed, and soon end-to-end services to the farmer, right from his soil testing to the quality of seed, feed, fertilizer, agriculture, irrigation, and the market, all that will be integrated. So that's another good platform. It's not only central government which have come out with some of these digital platforms. There have been many digital platforms by many other ministries, which I am not mentioning here for want of time, but it has been a collaborative and a cooperative activity by all ministries and departments, and they have come out with their own stacks, which are really doing good service. States have also come out. I'm just mentioning a few of those in empowerment. The DigiShakti, which is a youth empowerment platform in UP, Him Parivar, which is basically a social registry platform of Himachal Pradesh. In Assam, Parvarish is a nutrition-related platform where they actually monitor the nutrition status of children. Haryana is delivering public services through Antyodaya Saral. Megha EA, which is a Meghalaya's portal, which has also got UN award because they have been able to increase the efficiency of service and the processes in the government. Karnataka's e-Kutumba is, I'm sure many of you know about it, where the services are being provided. Apni Sarkar of Uttarakhand, again, is such a similar thing. Padhai Tunhar Dwar is in Chhattisgarh on education, and iKhedut in Gujarat, where they give end-to-end services. Now, some of these two major initiatives of Government of India where I would like your attention is about the DigiLocker, which is actually joining the dots across the government ecosystem. So this platform is actually going beyond target set of service or target set of users. It is basically a platform for the entire ecosystem. It connects multiple platforms, multiple services, and it is able to deliver academic records from Ministry of Education, health records from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, driving license, in MORTH, birth certificate of women and child development, PAN card of CBDT. So multiple services are now being made available. Documents are being made available on DigiLocker. This is now being expanded in the new budget, as we know, has been announced that we should move up into the entity DigiLocker, where the scope of this has now been enhanced so that it also serves entities, where the new entities can store and share their organization's documents in DigiLocker. It helps in ease of compliance and ease of doing business. Similarly, MSME can also register and verify through Udyam portal. Address update was another announcement where we are closely working now, as we all know and we all face, because as and when we move on a transfer, we have to change our addresses in almost everything, from the bank account to anything we do. Now, with this common address update, it is based on the latest address of Aadhaar and the consent of user. Automatically, all addresses will change and they will pick up the address which is there in the Aadhaar. So this is also being implemented very soon. Umang, of course, we all know about. We have got more than 1,600 services which are already operational on this. Large number of transactions are taking place, but I would still like that some of the government departments, they should really make use of this service, and so that citizens get seamless access to service through Umang portal. My scheme, this is a new scheme which I thought I'll explain that this is basically an eligibility-based service discovery platform. As we know, government has multiple schemes and multiple services. Many departments have their own services. They operate in silos, in different websites, different portals. The whole objective of this is that all the services, a common citizen can actually distinguish the services which are available to him according to his eligibility, his caste, whether he belongs to the backward or forward, depending on his land holding. This can be made available. So it helps in easy discovery of services, simplification of application format, as well as transparent application tracking. More than 400 services are available on my scheme. 28 states have also onboarded on this. Now, we would like government officials who all are present here and listening to the web mode, please ensure that most of these services are now made available on this. I'll just run a small video which will talk about how this service is being made available to people.
लिए सरकारी ढूंढने में थी दुश्वारी, दफ्तर दफ्तर ढूंढे उसको, कहां मिले वो पता ये किसको। 138 करोड़ लोगों का देश और तमाम योजनाओं में से अपने मतलब की योजना ढूंढना बड़ा मुश्किल। अब माई स्कीम है आई, दूर हुई सब कठिनाई। अब पात्रता के अनुसार उपभोक्ता ढूंढ सकते हैं अपनी योजना। बस अपना मूल विवरण एंटर करें और सारी योजनाओं की जानकारी पाएं। खोज के मिलते सरल उपाय सही स्कीम तक ये पहुंचाए। जगह जगह अब नहीं खोजना, आसानी से मिले योजना।
Yeah, so this is, and then the second one is the National Single Sign-On Platform, where again we had different platforms for different services, and on every application we have to have different password. Now this National Single Sign-On Platform has already integrated Jan Parche, DigiLocker, ePraman, and all other things can be now made available through a single user and single password. More than 5,700 services of government are already available on this. But again, central and state governments, representatives, officials, please see there are many services which are still can be made available on this. This will be a really good service to empower our citizens at different levels, in different geographies and in different locations. API Setu, many of you know about it. This is the best platform where we are able to exchange data, information, and a set of data publishers. I give example of whether it is petroleum or the driving license or the PAN card. These are the publishers, and the user can be central, state government, university, industry, the startups. So the whole information can now be made available for research, development, innovation, startup community, and for decision making in the government, for better planning and decision making. So API Setu again, while 2,600 APIs are made available, but we need more of the state government and the central government. They should make use of these things as publisher as well as consumer of this initiative. Digital India Bhashini is the important proposal in which last year Honorable Prime Minister has launched this Digital India Bhashani Bhashadan. It started in the Digital India Week last year. Now we have come far ahead. Now there are 3 technologies: it is text-to-text, speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and 380 plus functional model, nearly 67 universities, institutions, and startups are involved in developing new models, the AI models, by which language can be translated into 22 constitutional languages. We have already done it for 12 languages, and we would be seeing that it gets converted into 22 constitutional languages. A small example of that is, I'll be just showcasing here.
नमस्कार. UPI 123 मध्ये सीता देवी आपले स्वागत आहे. सीता देवी, मला सांगा आपल्याला कोणती सुविधा हवी आहे?
मला भारत गॅस सिलेंडरचे पैसे जमा करायचे आहेत.
भारत गॅस LPG सिलेंडर. तुमच्या मोबाईल नंबर 990 रुपये बाकी आहेत. हे पैसे जमा करण्यासाठी कृपया आपला UPI पिन प्रविष्ट करा. आपले 990 रुपयांचे भारत गॅसचे पेमेंट यशस्वीरित्या पूर्ण झाले आहे. धन्यवाद.
So as we see how we are able to use, in fact, in Digital India Bhashani, now we have moved further ahead through the large language models and applications of generative AI. In Digital India Bhashani, now we are integrating with AI APIs so that, even the WhatsApp and OpenAI APIs, now we can actually, anybody can talk to the people on WhatsApp and get response on any scheme or any program of the government. If we have time, I'll request a small example of that. Do we have that? Maybe short. Maybe we'll show you how AI is working effectively on that, maybe in a moment. But as we look at how we have been able to, digital public platforms can actually help in ease of living for common citizen, ease of doing business, as well as ease of governance. Now, citizens can really benefit through direct access to services at site or as application. They can also make use of assisted mode like common service centers. There are multiple centers now being set up by the state governments also. So they can make use of those and have access to all digital services. Similarly, ease of doing business, the compliance can become much easy. APIs have been published, so people can have access to data of different, industry, startup, they can make use of these data for better decision making, for better planning, as well as coming out with new innovations and new solutions and products. And the ease of governance, a GIS-based decision support system, outreach and technical assistance, all these will help the departments and ministries to take data-driven decision-making, better policy, better monitoring, and better outcomes. I'll end here and would like to thank each one of you. As we know that this is only the beginning of our program, but then we have already identified 12 digital public platforms which we are looking to share with the world community. We have set new global benchmarks. We are working with the community to ensure that our benchmarks become higher and higher. But the only thing I wanted to request that as Team India, we should never lose sight of digital platforms, inclusive, citizen and ecosystem-centric design and development, research and innovation, emerging technology, and emerging challenges in this space. I think the partnership, collaboration, and trust on the digital public platform will be our key to success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the very comprehensive presentation on public digital platforms and how it is empowering citizens by interlinking services through APIs, building interoperable, open standards-based systems, and enabling a whole-of-government approach. And also exposing how we are moving on with Bhashani to enable services in all Indian languages, and especially voice-enabled services. So, but the core of all this public service delivery through public digital platforms lies connectivity, and we have none other than Secretary Telecom, Shri Rajaraman sir, to give an overview on what all is happening in the 5G space and in what ways we can use it for enabling better services for citizens.
Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, it's a privilege to be here in this great group under the chairmanship of Honorable Minister for Communications and senior colleagues here from a variety of civil services. First of all, once again, a good morning to you. So my task here is to actually to showcase 5G as one of the means of bringing transformation in this country. So all of us are gathered here to brainstorm and see how we can probably look at harnessing technology to support the growth of our country. So if you look at our common pursuits, I think all of us in some ways in economic ministries are focused on bringing in growth and creating jobs. In some ways, we are looking at well-being of citizens. So it's a common pursuit that we look at how we can bring growth to the country in the form of jobs, growth in new opportunities for our youngsters, and also to create a higher sense of a high quality of life or well-being for all citizens of this country. So technology is a tool for all of that. So all of us are aware how technology has been harnessed by the private sector to bring transformation in business. Similarly, I think we have a number of examples here. I think some of the awardees also have done that, of how to use and harness technology for the benefit of citizens at large. So if you look at the 5G as one of the technologies, when I say technologies, I think it should not be misunderstood that 5G is the only way to growth in this country. But what I mean is that 5G is one of the latest powerful tools that are available in our toolkit to actually be deployed for the growth of this country. There are many other technologies, medical technologies, there are defense technologies, there are agriculture technologies, and so on and so forth. And you can keep on adding. So at this point of time, if you look at technologies that cut across sectors, I think that is what would bring in the transformation. Artificial intelligence is one of them. We have 5G, which is another means. There are similar many other technologies which are cross-cutting in nature, cuts across a variety of sectors. So this is a schematic which tells how 5G, perhaps in an urban setting, can actually bring a transformation. I think there are a number of applications which have been demonstrated worldwide in terms of smart buildings, smart mobility, smart parking, in terms of smart grids, smart transportation, smart utility management, and so on and so forth. So when I mean smart, here I think this word is sometimes used in, can we move to the next slide, I think? So when I mean smart, what it means is that is how to bring in greater efficiency and productivity in whatever resources that we deploy. Today, our Honorable Prime Minister has launched a massive campaign on Gati Shakti. Gati Shakti essentially means ways and means of harnessing technology to enable greater efficiency, greater productivity, cut costs, cut time, and ensure greater convenience, greater security, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the application of 5G, 5G does all of that if it is applied to a particular sector. So it can save time, it can actually cut your costs, it can actually lead to greater productivity of your staff and employees. It can lead to greater security if it is deployed in a particular use cases. So therefore, there are different dimensions of the outcomes based on, what settings you actually deploy this technology. So this slide tells you about what are the various potential use cases. In industry, for instance, it can lead to a number of benefits like predictive maintenance, better asset management, smart machinery, which lead to lower wastages, maybe better, improved, lower defect ratio, and so on and so forth. So there can be, the use cases can be in smart cities, smart buildings, smart utilities, smart consumer devices, and smart agriculture. So there are a number of use cases which I would like to highlight here. Now, before I do that, I would like to introduce the potential of 5G, because 5G is significantly different from its earlier sibling, that is 4G, I think. So if you look at the potential, here I think the three features which are listed here, the one which is listed vertically is the feature of extreme mobile broadband, which is basically to tell you that 5G offers greater throughput. I think the pipe size has increased significantly. And it has increased significantly to the extent that maybe on a peak rate, I think if you look at a single user using a radio access network, it can lead to almost like 20 Gbps of throughput. But if you have a number of users connected to a system, then the user experience rate should at least be about 100 Mbps, I think, on a download. So that's the scale of improvement compared to its earlier technologies. Similarly, there is a feature called massive machine type communication, which essentially means a large number of IoT devices can be connected to the 5G base station, and it can still support it. I mean, I think earlier 4G base stations were capable of supporting nearly about 100,000 IoT devices. Today, I think per square kilometer. But 5G radio access networks can support as much as 1 million devices per square kilometer. Because increasingly you're finding, perhaps in a smart city, for instance, you have hundreds and thousands of devices across the city in terms of, say, cameras. It could be traffic light management. It could be things like smart meters. So the density of IoT devices has drastically increased. Similarly, if you take the case of the third feature, ultra-reliable low-latency services, I mean, this essentially means that the delay that occurs while communication happens has been significantly cut to as low as about 1 millisecond. So essentially, it means that critical communications can perhaps rely upon 5G as a means means of communication. So if you look at the horizontal axis, what is shown here is the nature of communication, nature of interface, basically human to human, human to machine, and machine to machine. So based on these two dimensions, I think there are a number of use cases that become possible, I mean, because of all these capabilities and these kinds of interfaces. So essentially, if you look at the extreme mobile broadband, things like, say, VR, XR, is a possibility with a good experience, and video monitoring, edge computing. I mean, these are all possibilities because of the capabilities of the bigger pipe size that is available. If you look at the higher density of IoT devices that it can support, it makes possible things like very intense deployment of IoT devices in, say, smart meters, or any other urban smart city kind of applications, including health monitoring, vehicle to infrastructure, I mean, which could be very dense. And finally, things like where the ultra-low latency is required, like for instance, robotic surgeries, or maybe vehicle to pedestrian, because these are all life-saving, or there are use cases where the user could be at risk, the pedestrian could be at risk, where public safety is involved. Industrial automation, where you need a high degree of low defect rate, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the opportunity in India, I think so. This is just to list where all these deployments can happen. We have about 343 1 lakh plus towns or cities. We have 230,000 factories, 3,000 mining licenses, 130 airports, 13 major and 200 minor ports, about 151,000 kilometers of national highways, 159 million hectares of arable land, and so on and so forth. So the opportunity for deployment is enormous. It is as much as probably I think we can prove pilots and find applications which lead to higher productivity and efficiency. If you look at the work that we have done so far, I think the work started as early as about 2018. We have released Spectrum for R&D, enabling companies to actually research on 5G equipment. We set up a 5G testbed, we're costing about 224 crores in IIT Madras and a few other IITs. And they have come out with a variety of hardware and software which can now be deployed in 5G networks. Then we have set up an interministerial committee spanning all the infrastructure ministries and other ministries, leading to greater understanding of how 5G can be deployed. And then we have also set up a vertical engagement program for CPSCs, etc., and the work is in progress. And finally, I think we have set up a collaboration portal where all these agencies, ministries, agencies, the state governments, the startups, and telecom service providers can come together on a common portal, sharing information which can enable collaborations. Now, let me touch some of the sectors. Obviously, in such a short time, it's difficult for me to touch on various sectors, but a few of the critical sectors. So you look at health, I think the opportunity is something like this. We need to cut down on the fatalities, the casualties that occur when patients get transported or during, because of a delay in procedures and so on and so forth. So perhaps the opportunity is better outcomes because of critical care, in critical care, AI-based diagnostics, then technology-supported health and wellness centers, and so on and so forth. So, on the screen you can see an auto rickshaw which is powered with, technically you can use 4G as well, but 5G has enabled better resolution videos to be transmitted to the doctors back who is sitting in a hospital to actually examine a patient while he's on transportation, enabling perhaps greater preparedness when the patient is received in the hospital, and also perhaps instruction to the paramedic who accompanies the patient. So the solutions are manifold. When I think a connected ambulance, for instance, medical kits for ASHA workers, there are wearable jackets for diagnostics. For instance, I think there are many of our startups, whatever I'm saying here, have all been developed by many of our startups. So I would request, first of all, that all the ministries should actually open up their minds to collaborating with startups. There are great small companies out there who have developed fabulous solutions. So it is up to you to actually deploy them and actually encourage them to actually take it to scale and upscale their production within the country. So many of what I've said here, like a health kiosk, the wearable jackets, remote operated diagnostics, all are across the POC stage, and many of them, and in fact, we have shared a booklet with all of you, which is also available on our website. We have shared it with, at least for about 100, 200 of the participants here, which has actually documented all those startups and the use cases. So I would request you to explore and probably give them a chance. The second use case which I am referring to is education and skill development. I visited a Nokia factory, I think several months back. So what you could see there is that before a worker is put on the shop floor, he or she is provided with a VR XR toolkit which enables the worker to actually fine-tune his skills before he actually goes and actually starts participating in the manufacturing. So this actually results in significant improvement in the quality of the final product, lower defect rates, maybe better productivity, and so on and so forth. So it actually affords a significant improvement to the shop floor productivity. So similarly, in the case of industrial learning, I think this can support schools. In the schools, I think maybe XR VR can provide great learning support for the students, and remotely supported factories for instance. Complex maintenance issues. Let's assume that we have a railway, a train which requires maintenance, and probably the worker who is on the ground perhaps doesn't have the kind of skill set to actually tell him clearly where the defect is. So perhaps if he's aided with a video camera which is connected back to the workstation with a much more skilled supervisor, then perhaps he or she could be guided to take better decisions in maintenance and so on and so forth. So these are many of the examples. I think there could be many other use cases as well. Here is a use case of Industry 4.0. There are many companies here in India like Bosch or Jio, for instance, in the Jamnagar petrochemical factory. All have deployed 5G actually as testing examples. Maybe seeing is believing. I would request all of you to actually venture out and visit some of these startups, visit some of these deployed use cases to actually understand how benefits can accrue to all of us, whether it is a CPSC or maybe in a social infrastructure sector and so on and so forth. So in an Industry 4 setting, what we can probably get as an outcome is perhaps a low cost of maintenance. Because obviously, if you are able to, like for instance, I can tell you, connecting different parts of a factory through to appropriate high-resolution video cameras can actually tell you ahead of time before a problem occurs. So in that case, I think if you're able to act, I think this kind of predictive maintenance leads to lower downtime, maybe I think better state of maintenance of the equipment and so on and so forth. So that is an example. Similarly, if you take the case of logistics, I think the opportunities include, say, mitigating thefts, avoiding wastages, setting up smart freight corridors where probably your containers can be embedded with IoT devices, which can tell you the state of the cargo being transmitted. Especially, say, in the case of agriculture products, I think it can tell you whether the cooling or the temperature levels within the container of the cold stored container is actually enough to actually ensure that the shelf life of the product. So it can ensure that the better outcomes for the business. Similarly, so this is just an example of how various kind of sensors in an industry setting leads to better predictive maintenance, leads to better plant security, and greater quality in the outcomes. So similarly, in the case of ports, I think a couple of ports have actually commenced the work on deploying 5G for, say, using sensors in various parts of the port, including freight unloading and from the ships and so on and so forth, leading to high improved safety and perhaps greater shorter turnaround time and so on and so forth. So this is just an example of how in a port setting, like video surveillance, real-time asset location, guided vehicles, automatic gate control, and maybe drone-based inspections can actually lead to better productivity. This is an example of use of 5G in a mine, I think, because there is a startup called LiveSense, which has actually demonstrated in a pilot on how it can lead to greater safety of the workers who move the ore from one point to another, and lead to also better productivity of the various pieces of equipment that are deployed. I will also touch on livestock and agriculture management. Like for instance, we have drone-based monitoring of farms leading, which can be used for two use cases. One for farm management, the other of course by banks and by insurance companies to actually look at whether some of their loanees are actually doing well, and whether there is in case a disaster strikes, what is the scale of damage, and so on and so forth. And it can be used in, say, in a fishery setting also for identifying areas for high yield and so on and so forth. So the work done so far with the ministries is that we have set up an interministerial committee. We have actually exposed various ministries to various use cases. We have also embedded 5G related topics inside the engineering syllabi. We are working with the telecom sector skill council to impart skills for actually tapping 5G as a technology tool. We are setting about 100 use case labs across the country to ensure that there's greater understanding of 5G technologies. And we are also supporting various departments and ministries to set up use cases. So this is just an example of how many states we have covered so far. I think there are many states to be done as well. About 15 states have been covered. I would encourage all the departments and the states to actually launch sector-specific workshops where we perhaps can identify very specific applications which can be done. Now, a lot of work has been done by various ministries. About 9 ministries have identified centers of excellence where they can house these pilots. Like for instance, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs identified IUDX and Institute of Science, Bangalore, to host the use case labs. The Department of Agriculture has identified IRA, PUSA as one of the centers. So I would request that all the ministries should identify an anchor institution where these 5G use cases can be tested and proven, and thereafter replicated out in the field. So we have also listed many of the schemes where perhaps technology, including 5G, can be embedded in the way in which the scheme is implemented. So like say, the Honorable Vice President was talking about Jal Jeevan Mission. That is it's an excellent use case where IoT can be deployed, and it's already been deployed. So there are many other applications or other schemes where perhaps 5G can certainly come in. So to end, I would like to say that I would request the ministries, including the state governments, to fund and establish 5G use cases in specific verticals. DOT has already connected to ministries, and we are willing to work with you to actually support you, your journey. And we will also like to look at how to connect you with the engineering institutions where 5G use case labs will be there, so that they can focus on specific use case pilots and support you in this process of proving and upscaling deployment of 5G as a technology tool. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for giving such a nice exposure to the possibilities of 5G and how 5G use cases can revolutionize the way we deliver services. Seeing 5G along with the data that's emanating from the public digital platforms and the compute that's available today opens up a host of opportunities for our entrepreneurs, private sector industry partners working in tandem with the government departments. Our story of digital transformation has been a key story of partnership between the government and the industry, how best of the minds from the industry has worked with us to build up platforms like Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, CoWIN, Diksha. All of it is a story of partnerships working with industry. So to dwell on this and the possibilities of AI and the future of technology, I would like to invite Debjani Ghosh, President of NASSCOM, to come and address us on this occasion.
Thank you, Abhishek. Honorable Minister, respected secretaries, and respected dignitaries in the room. Since I don't get too many opportunities to be in a room with the best of best in India, Minister, with your permission, can I kick this off with a question? Thank you. So this is going to be a little bit of a pop quiz. So I'm sure many of you have heard this story, but it's a wonderful story and needs to be told again and again. In 2008, when India's banking penetration was around 16 or 17%, a very reputed global consultant organization did a study and told us that it would take us 46 years, 46 years, to reach a banking penetration of 80%. I want to know how many years did it take India to reach a banking penetration of 80%? Any guesses in the room? Thank you. You're sitting next to Saurav. It took us 6 to 7 years to reach a banking penetration of 80%. And the reason we were able to do it was the India stack, the development of the India stack, Aadhaar, which has formed the foundation of what the world known as India's digital public infrastructure. And this is a fascinating story, and I think it's a story we need to remind ourselves again and again, because when we think of the impossible challenges ahead of India, ahead of the world, we have to remind ourselves that when we really put our mind to it, anything is possible. When we talk about DPIs, and I'll talk about the public-private partnership, but when we talk about DPIs, there's a very, very important change that is happening in the world. When you look at the technology playbook, when you look at the history of technology innovation, the last 10 years, the last decade, was pretty much driven or shaped by the story of platformization. This was driven by the West. This was driven by the big tech companies developing end-to-end huge platforms, which, as you know, are walled gardens. These are platforms where there is one player that builds out who plays, who doesn't play, and how do you play. And it has worked well. It has worked very well till now. But there is a silent revolution taking place. And that revolution is what's happening in India, where we are seeing the beginning of almost a new era of innovation, driven by interoperability, driven by transparency, driven by ecosystem play, which is slowly but surely completely disrupting the incumbent model. We still have miles to go, but the disruption has started, and creating this open ecosystem for pretty much exponential scale. I mean, when you think about 46 years achieved in 6 years, this is exponential. This is beyond exponential. This kind of scale and this kind of inclusion, that is the power of DPI. That is what India's DPI actually stands for. And I've said it's the power of the open protocol network. And we are seeing the world move now, or at least the world starting to think about the move from platformization to an open protocol network play, because this is what brings the ecosystem to play. This is what brings the industry to play. Now, when you think about DPI, the first name that comes to mind is UPI. Can you think about UPI without Paytm, without PhonePe, without Google Pay? You can't. This is the public-private partnership that Abhishek was just talking about. The beauty, the magic sauce, I really call it the magic sauce of DPI, because I think the success of DPI, and it started from day one. It started from the time when Nandan, sitting in that little office, and I was at that time heading Intel India, and I used to keep visiting him there, pretty much got all of us, all the companies to say that we are going to give you the resources to build out Aadhaar. It started from those days. But that handshake, that foundation of partnership is the success behind DPI. And recently in Kumarakam, Mr. Kant had organized the G20 Sherpa meet. And NASSCOM was very privileged to set up a DPI experience zone for the Sherpas, to show them in action what DPIs can do. And we had invited companies to participate, and it was amazing to see. All the big companies were there, from Google to Microsoft to TCS, everyone was there. And then you had the smaller companies, the startups, and it was amazing to see how each and every one is innovating on the DPIs, building on the DPIs to drive that accelerated scale for their services and products. To me, the DPI is like a highway. The government is creating the highway, they're creating the roads, and industry is then invited to come and drive their products and services to the highway. And by doing this, what you're doing is you're democratizing business insights, you're democratizing access to data, you're democratizing access to market, access to customers, you're bringing down customer cost. So all of a sudden, what does this infrastructure do? It creates a level playing field. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how small you are. It doesn't matter if you're the richest company in the world or a small startup in a tier 3 city in India. All of a sudden, you have access, that same access as every one of your competitors to customers. This is the game-changing power of DPI. And as we talk about public-private partnership, the one thing which we do not talk about often enough, and I think we should, is the role of DPI in creating India's startup ecosystem. I don't think India's startup ecosystem would be half as robust and healthy that it is today if India Stack and DPI had not existed. Any of you know which is India's largest brokerage company? Any of you know? Zerodha. What was Zerodha built on? They recently celebrated reaching 1 crore, right? I think, yeah, 1 crore customers. What is it built on? It's built on the India Stack. What is Paytm built on? PhonePe built on? And there are just millions and millions of thousands and thousands maybe of startups whose entire model is built on DPIs, and they survive, they grow, they thrive because of the infrastructures that we are building out. It has completely disrupted financial sector and financial inclusion, as we all know. And I think what we are seeing, the scale out of DPIs in e-commerce, in agriculture, so exciting because we believe that that's exactly what it's going to do. What it allows, once again, is it allows you those highways where you can get access to data, you can get access to your customers. It brings down your customer acquisition cost significantly. It democratizes business intelligence, which in the world of platforms was only available to a few. The data and business intelligence was only available to the companies that had the deep pockets to build platforms. Suddenly with DPI, that entire ecosystem has got disrupted. And it's suddenly available to everyone. And this is a fantastic turning point, not just in Indian history, but I think this is a fantastic turning point in tech history, in global tech industry history. Now, one thing we always talk about is UPI, and it's just fascinating to see the kind of work that has happened in UPI. But there's another infrastructure, open infrastructure, that I am tremendously excited about, and that's ONDC. I'm sure all of you have heard about it. This is our DPI for e-commerce, for building out e-commerce. Now, when you think about it, e-commerce so far has been a very, very strong platform play. Again, it has done wonders till now. The kind of innovation we have seen, the kind of uptake we have seen. But all said and done, in India, if I'm not wrong, I think the percentage of the population that has access to e-commerce is, I think, below 10%. If I'm not wrong, the number's around 6 to 9%. Imagine what happens now when the open protocol network suddenly creates an infrastructure where you can be a seller, I am a buyer, and we can reach each other. It doesn't matter which platform we are on. What would happen in the past You're a small seller and you want to reach customers, you would have to decide which platforms do I want to be on. And then you would have to individually go and sign up on each platform, put your product on that platform, follow the terms and conditions of that platform in order to reach as many customers as you can. And as a small player, there's a cost of time and of course cost of the entire business engagement process. And most of the smaller players cannot afford that cost. So they would at best maybe go on to one platform or maybe two platforms. And also when you're part of the platform, they would not get access to the business insights because that is not theirs. Now what ONDC does, the power of interoperability, and by the way, this interoperability is not something new to us, right? It's existed. It's basically you sending an email from your Gmail account to someone's Hotmail account or Outlook account. That is interoperability, where different platforms speak to each other. Right? This power of interoperability that ONDC is bringing about is going to ensure that you, as long as the platform that you're on is part of this open network, once you get on it, then any buyer, any seller on any platform can suddenly find you. Imagine what this does to the e-commerce ecosystem, to the sellers, to the buyers, and of course, to the consumers. I think the promise of interoperability in DPI with security, with scale, with inclusion is, I know we keep using the word game-changing, but it is game-changing. It is going to rewrite the history of the tech industry as we go forward. And I'm so happy and I'm so proud that that chapter is being written by none other than India. And I think this is where the industry is so excited to be part of this journey, to participate in this journey, because we know we are creating history together. And as I keep saying, none of this would be successful if both hands don't come together. None of this is possible by industry alone or by government alone. And I think DPIs, amongst many other things, will also be the showcase for really effective by public-private partnership at its best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debjani, for your excellent expression of what TPIs have done for the country. But I must say that just like private industry has benefited from the India Stack solutions, we have also greatly benefited from the ideation and the thought process and the expertise that exists in our industry. This partnership will grow and strengthen in the days to come. And while we work with the industry and the central government ministries, partnership with the state governments are very, very important. And as a representative of the state government, we have Mr. Parag Jain and our Secretary IT, Principal Secretary IT, Government of Maharashtra, to share what Maharashtra has been doing.
Honorable ministers and all dignitaries, my colleagues. सर सबसे पहले तो मैं बधाई देना चाहूँगा दो बातों के लिए कि सर मेरे को भी 25 साल हो गया पब्लिक सर्विस में। मैंने देखा है कि स्टेट्स आर स्ट्रगलिंग विद देयर ओन बैटल्स। ये पहली बार मैं इतने सालों के बाद मैं देख रहा हूँ कि वेयर वी हैव सम गाइडेंस फ्रॉम द नेशनल लेवल। यहाँ पे सर इतने सारे प्रोग्राम्स, जैसे मैंने आईटी में भी देखा सर, हम कलेक्टर्स रहे, जिला परिषद में रहे, वहाँ पे भी अनुभव यही रहा कि हमने अपनी बैटल खुद लड़ी, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने अपनी बैटल खुद लड़ी। लेकिन ये मैं पहली बार देख रहा हूँ कि इतने सारे प्रोग्राम नेशनल लेवल पे जो स्टेट के लिए बहुत रेलेवेंट हैं, सर जैसे वो गति शक्ति ले लें, विच आई थिंक विल बी ए हिस्टोरिक इन द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इंडिया। इतना बड़ा ये प्रोग्राम हम कर रहे हैं सर, वी आर क्रिएटिंग हिस्ट्री। तो इसका मुझे लगता है कि जो गाइडेंस नेशनल लेवल से हमें मिल रही है, जो स्टेट्स टिट्स एंड बिट्स में काम कर रहे थे सर, इतने सारे प्रोग्राम हैं अभी जहाँ पे कि सिर्फ उन्हीं को फॉलो कर लिया हम लोगों ने, स्टेट्स ने, तो मुझे लगता है 70-80% काम तो स्टेट का वैसे ही हो जाएगा। जैसे स्कीम है कॉल बिफोर यू डिग, मतलब छोटी सी स्कीम है लेकिन पूरा का पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेक्टर को ये बहुत ही रेलेवेंट है सर। दूसरा, मैंने इतने सारे प्रोग्राम्स आप लोगों ने किए हैं और हम उनको फॉलो कर रहे हैं स्टेट लेवल पे। इसमें सर दूसरा जो मेरे को मूलभूत परिवर्तन लगता है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की पॉलिसी में, सर परसुएशन बहुत ज़्यादा है। मुझे लगता है राजारामन सर का हर महीने में 2 बार तो फ़ोन मुझे आ ही जाता है। इतना परसुएशन है 4G सैचुरेशन पे, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ 5 पे, CBUDT पे, सर वहाँ पे खुद आए, मतलब so much of insistence is given by government of India to state and guidance is given. I think, सर मैं तो यही कहूँगा कि सर together we can and we will definitely. Sir, as far as Maharashtra is concerned, I think since we are the financial nerve of the nation, sir, as far as DBT is concerned, I'll just give you some figures so that we can appreciate what we are doing in Maharashtra. Sir, we in direct benefit transfer, which is the milestone in the advancement of country, महाराष्ट्र ने करीबन सर 20,000 करोड़ के ऊपर डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर किया है पिछले सालों में, और हमने उसमें वी हैव इंटीग्रेटेड मोर देन 100 स्कीम्स। सर हमारे पास में 44,000 CSC सेंटर है जहाँ पे कि जो सिटीजन है, कॉमन सिटीजन है, उसको अपने गांव में फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल है, उसको अपने गांव में सर्विसेज अवेलेबल है। ये बहुत बड़ा एक एडवांसमेंट की तरफ में कदम है। सर जो हमने नए इनिशिएटिव लिया है, मुझे लगता है जो कि दूसरे स्टेट्स ने भी लेने चाहिए, मुझे लगता है सर उसमें जो सबसे बड़ा है हमने किया है सर वेयर हाउसिंग रिसीट ऑन ब्लॉकचेन। हमने ब्लॉकचेन को यूज़ किया है। हमारे जितने महाराष्ट्र स्टेट वेयर हाउसिंग कॉरपोरेशन के जितने वेयर हाउसिंग है, उसमें जितना भी माल है उसकी जो रिसीट मिलती है सर, इट इज़ ऑन ब्लॉकचेन। सो इट इज़ वेरी इजी फॉर फार्मर टू गेट फाइनेंस फ्रॉम फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन। सो इट इज़ अ केस ऑफ फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन ऑफ फार्मर। पहले उसको सर्टिफिकेशन वो देता था, कुछ देता था, तो उसकी रीवेरिफिकेशन करते थे बैंक या फाइनेंशियल। यहाँ पे हमने ब्लॉकचेन को यूज़ करके ही इज़ एबल टू गेट रीफाइनेंस within seconds. So I think we should do this in other states. सर दूसरा जो हमने किया है वो कल ही इनॉग्रेशन हुआ, ऑनरेबल CM एंड डिप्टी CM ने इनॉग्रेट किया। What we are doing in Maharashtra that there is a central registry system। जो आदमी की कुछ तकलीफ है, एक तो आपने CP ग्राम बना दी, ग्रीवेंस पोर्टल बनी चुका है जो कि बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा है महाराष्ट्र में। तो वी आर गेटिंग I think in lakhs we are getting complaints and we are solving them। उसमें अच्छी जो मुझे बात लगती है सर, जो सेटिस्फेक्शन लेवल का, उसमें सेटिस्फाइड एंड नॉन सेटिस्फाइड, सेटिस्फेक्शन का लेवल इज गोइंग अप इन महाराष्ट्र। एज फार एज महाराष्ट्र इज कंसर्न्ड, जो हम सोल्व करते हैं उसमें डिससेटिस्फेक्शन इज ए पैरामीटर, कि हमने सोल्व तो कर दी लेकिन वो सेटिस्फाइड है कि नहीं है। इन महाराष्ट्र द फिगर इज अबाउट दैट पीपल आर 75% सेटिस्फाइड। सो दूसरा जो हमने किया महाराष्ट्र में, जो हमने कल इनॉग्रेट किया, मैंने बताया कि किसी की कंप्लेन है, वो मंत्रालय आता है या सचिवालय आता है या कलेक्टर ऑफिस में आता है या डिविजनल कमिश्नर में आता है, तो ही डजंट हैव टू गो एनीवेयर, वो अपनी कंप्लेन वहीं पे दे सकता है, उसकी स्कैनिंग होके इट विल रीच द कंसर्न पर्सन। सो तीसरा जो हमने किया है, अभी मुझे लगता है अगले 1 महीने में हो जाएगा। बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे दिखते हैं जो बार बार कलेक्टर ऑफिस में आते हैं, डिविजनल कमिश्नर ऑफिस में आते हैं, मंत्रालय में आते हैं। तो हम करने जा रहे हैं सर फेशियल रिकग्निशन सिस्टम। ये पता चलेगा वो कितनी बार सिर्फ अपने काम के लिए आ रहा है कि दूसरों के काम के लिए आ रहा है। तो मुझे लगता है सर ये फेशियल रिकग्निशन सिस्टम जो हम, मुझे लगता है अगले 1 महीने में इंप्लीमेंट होगा। वी आर स्टार्टिंग विद मंत्रालय, देन वी विल मूव डाउन टू कलेक्टर ऑफिस एंड ऑल। सर एक और हमने नया इनिशिएटिव लिया मुंबई पुणे रोड पे, बिकॉज आई एम लुकिंग आफ्टर ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड पोर्ट ऑल्सो एज प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी। वहाँ पे सर हमने किया है कि स्पीड अरेस्टर का तो मोर्थ ने निकाल दी गाइडलाइंस, लेकिन हमने हर 50 किलोमीटर पे कैमरे लगा दिए हैं। तो पहले 50 किलोमीटर पे गाड़ी आती है या ट्रक आता है, और अगले 50 किलोमीटर के बाद में आता है, उसकी स्पीड हम नाप लेते हैं और ये पता चल जाता है वेदर इज क्रॉसिंग लिमिट। ये हमने पिछले महीने शुरू किया सर। इसका फायदा ये हुआ, और उसके बाद में हम उसको पकड़ते हैं, फाइन तो होता ही है बिकॉज ही इज ओवर स्पीडिंग। हम उसको 2 घंटे काउंसलिंग देते हैं। तो उसकी पूरी जिंदगी याद रहेगा। एक और हम सब बड़ा काम कर रहे हैं, वी आर इन द टेंडर स्टेज, वी आर डूइंग सिटीजन डाटा। वी आर कोलेटिंग ऑल डाटा विच इज ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल, विच इज ऑलरेडी ऑथेंटिकेटेड थ्रू आधार। आधार इज अ माइलस्टोन। हमारे पास में सर फूड एंड सिविल सप्लाईज में वी हैव गोट डेटा ऑफ अबाउट 8.5 करोड़ इन महाराष्ट्र। इन रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट वी हैव गोट मोर देन 4 करोड़ डाटा अवेलेबल विच इज आधार ऑथेंटिकेटेड। So we are collating this data making a golden data hub. And this data hub, we are envisaging that this would help in making planning for the state, making budget for the state, and it will help us in service delivery also. So this is what we are doing in Maharashtra. Sir, with this, यहाँ पे भाषणी का सेक्रेटरी साहब ने बताया, so we are in the process of integrating Bhashini in our CM helpline. So we would be able to take this Government of India initiative in our CM helpline. So with these words, I would like to thank you for inviting me. Or sir, we, again at the cost of repetition, together we can and we will, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Parag, for sharing very interesting use cases of how technology can improve governance and improve service delivery and empower citizens. With this, now it's my honor and privilege to invite our Honorable Minister for Railways, Communications, Electronics and IT amongst us, who brings together the best of public service, the best of entrepreneurship and the best of civil service of which he had been a part of. Welcome, sir.
लंच का समय आधे से ज़्यादा लोग सोच रहे होंगे कि कितनी जल्दी ख़त्म हो. ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा. I'll just make 2 or 3 points. All the respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. वैसे अच्छा किया पराग जी आपने थोड़ा सा माहौल चेंज किया. बहुत सीरियस सा हो गया था माहौल. साथियों, देश एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट मुकाम पे है. इसलिए मैं ये आपको कहना चाहता हूँ क्योंकि जब भी कोई इकोनॉमी, किसी भी देश की इकोनॉमी एक रीजनेबल लेवल पे होती है, 2-2.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर की इकोनॉमी होती है, तब तक बहुत सारे पुराने इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो वर्षों से चले आते हैं, बहुत सारी पुराने तरीके से काम करने का जो तरीका होता है वो चला आता है, वो चलता रहता है. कोई खास ज़्यादा बड़ा तनाव नहीं आता, बड़ा डिसरप्शन नहीं आता. जैसे ही कंट्री इंडिया के साइज़ के प्रोपोर्शन में अगर हम लें 3.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर तक पहुंचने लगती है, बहुत सारे काम करने के तरीके, बहुत सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस, बहुत सारे सिस्टम्स, उसमें एक डिस्टिंक्ट एक लगने लगता है कि एक लिमिटेशन आ गया है, लगता है अब चेंज करने की ज़रूरत है. ये एक ऐसा फिनोमिनन है जो केवल हमारे लिए नहीं, हमसे पहले जिन्होंने हायर जीडीपी अचीव की उन सब कंट्रीज़ ने इसको फील किया. जापान ने अपनी जर्नी में जब वो 1.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर से ऊपर पहुंचे, देन दे स्टार्टेड अंडरस्टैंडिंग, दे स्टार्टेड ऑब्जर्विंग वेरियस टेंशंस विद इन देयर एंटायर इंस्टीट्यूशनल स्ट्रक्चर. चाइना ने जब 3, 3.5, 4 से ऊपर पहुंचना चालू किया, दे ऑल्सो स्टार्टेड फीलिंग द सेम. यूएस का अगर हम 1920s, 1930s का स्टडी करें, they also had exactly similar experience. हमारे पास आज जो सिचुएशन है, we are in a very high growth path, जहाँ पे हम rapidly 2.5 से 3 से आज हम 3.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर की इकोनॉमी आज हम लोग हैं. अभी जो हमारे जितने इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं और उनमें सिविल सर्विसेज बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है. मेरे हिसाब से अगर कहा जाए तो वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस में से एक है. ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशन में भी अब एक समय आ गया है जब वी विल हैव टू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग व्हाट आर द चेंजेस दैट वी नीड. वो चेंज कई तरीके से आएगा. बियॉन्ड दिस ग्रोथ, जब हम 4 ट्रिलियन की तरफ जाएंगे, 5 ट्रिलियन की तरफ जाएंगे, 10 ट्रिलियन की तरफ जाएंगे, आप 10 ट्रिलियन को एक नंबर मत समझना. 10 ट्रिलियन के पीछे की जो एक्टिविटी है, इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी है, सोशल एक्टिविटी है, इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी के हर एक फेज का, हर एक वैल्यू चेन का हर एक एलिमेंट है, उन सबको भी देखने की जरूरत है. तो जो काम मान लो 2 ट्रिलियन पे हम लोग करते थे, उसका 5 गुना काम करना पड़ेगा 10 ट्रिलियन लाने के लिए. दैट्स अ इजी वे टू अंडरस्टैंड साइज, जो वर्क का, जो काम का हमारे सामने जो चैलेंज है, उसकी साइज कितनी बढ़ने वाली है. वो हम कैसे करेंगे, चाहे रेलवे हो, चाहे सिविल कोई भी सिविल सर्विसेज से रिलेटेड कोई भी डिपार्टमेंट हो, चाहे माइनिंग ले लो आप, चाहे फूड एंड सिविल सप्लाईज डिपार्टमेंट ले लो, चाहे होम ले लो, कोई भी ले लो, हमें 3, 4, 5 गुना ज़्यादा काम करने की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। कैसे वो चेंज लाएंगे हम? हमें हमारे सर्विस डिलीवरी मॉडल्स में चेंज करना पड़ेगा, हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशनल फ्रेमवर्क में चेंज करना पड़ेगा, बहुत सारे हमारे लीगल स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं उनमें चेंज करना पड़ेगा। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आज भी समन देने के लिए कोई व्यक्ति जाता है, फिर लिख के आता है मैंने समन चस्पा किया, समन मैंने डिलीवर किया, वो सिस्टम शायद आगे आने वाले समय में अभी भी नहीं चल पा रहा है, आगे कैसे चलेगा? उनमें रिफॉर्म्स करने पड़ेंगे। बहुत सारे हमारे लीगल स्ट्रक्चर्स में हमें चेंज करना पड़ेगा। सब जगह हमें टेक्नोलॉजी को मैसिवली यूज करना पड़ेगा। वो दिन गए जब हम टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करते सोचते थे कि विल इट बी एन, चलो एक आइसक्रीम है, आइसक्रीम के ऊपर एक छोटा सा एक्स्ट्रा हमने चेरी डाल दिया। नहीं, अब टेक्नोलॉजी फंडामेंटली हमें बहुत सारे सिस्टम्स को विल हैव टू डिजाइन विद डिजिटल फर्स्ट थॉट। फॉर एग्जांपल, अभी डेटा प्रोटेक्शन का बिल और टेलीकॉम का बिल रेडी हुआ। दोनों बिल्स में शुरुआत से ही हाउ द इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड स्ट्रक्चर्स विल बी डिजिटली empowered right from day one, born digital. Structures and institutions have to be born digital. Ab initio डिजाइन उनकी डिजिटल होनी चाहिए। इस तरह के थॉट प्रोसेसेस को हमें लाना पड़ेगा, तभी जाके इंटेंस यूज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी करेंगे, तभी हम वो चेंज ले पाएंगे। और जो हमारे लिए रेलेवेंट है टू ऑल द सिविल सर्वेंट्स, उनमें 3 बड़े पॉइंट है जो हमें which we will have to imbibe. And why I'm saying this is because this is a realization which hundreds and hundreds of people with whom I've interacted from within the civil services and outside the civil services, everybody feels that yes, this is something which is needed now. And almost every civil servant I have met in my different parts of my career, different parts of my journey, everybody says that these are the 3 things which are required. First thing is, from shifting from merely having a point of view to having an economic point of view. कोई अगर बोले कि नहीं चलो वहां पे जाना, हमें ये काम करना है, उतना बड़ी सी एक चीज बनानी है, क्या हम उसके पीछे की इकोनॉमिक्स समझ सकते हैं? कैन वी अंडरस्टैंड इससे क्या फायदा होगा, इसका क्या कॉस्ट होगा, क्या बेनिफिट होगा, क्या रिस्क्स हैं इसमें, क्या एग्जीक्यूशन रिस्क्स हैं, क्या रेगुलेटरी रिस्क्स हैं, क्या कंस्ट्रक्शन रिस्क्स हैं, क्या टेक्नोलॉजी रिस्क्स हैं, क्या ऑब्सोलेसेंस की रिस्क्स हैं? इस तरह का एक इकोनॉमिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, जो कि जस्ट एक नहीं साहब ये बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है, करना चाहिए, जो हम कई बार हम गट फील से कहते हैं। गट फील भी बहुत बड़े लंबे एक्सपीरियंस से आता है। मैं ये नहीं कहता कि गट फील कोई गलत चीज़ है, वो होनी चाहिए, लेकिन साथ ही साथ एक इकोनॉमिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू जिसमें रैशनल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स हो, डेटा ड्रिवन हो, उसका हर एक पॉइंट का प्लस माइनसेस देखा हुआ हो, वो पहली चीज़ है। दूसरा है चेंज इन माइंडसेट, और चेंज इन माइंडसेट से क्या क्या नहीं हो सकता है। आप सिंपल सा एक एग्जांपल अगर देखो, टेलीकॉम के जो रिफॉर्म्स डिपार्टमेंट ने किए, सिंपली एक पैरामीटर पे ध्यान रख के किया कि अगर मेरा वैल्यू एडिशन नहीं है इस पर्टिकुलर एक्टिविटी में, तो डिपार्टमेंट को उस एक्टिविटी से निकल जाना चाहिए। अगर वैल्यू एडिशन है तो करना चाहिए, नहीं तो नहीं करना चाहिए। ये एक छोटा सा माइंडसेट का पॉइंट है। रिफॉर्म से पहले कोई भी टेलीकॉम से रिलेटेड कंपनी या टेलीकॉम का लाइसेंसी, और हजारों लाइसेंसीज हैं, अगर उनको एक छोटा सा कहीं पे अपने शेयर होल्डिंग स्ट्रक्चर में चेंज करना होता था, तो दे हैड टू टेक परमिशन फ्रॉम द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकॉम. So fundamental question that the department asked internally, all the officers, all of us colleagues, we would sit on a round table and ask this question कि क्या इसका value add है? The value add was zero. Value add was practically zero. ठीक है, फाइल आती थी, एप्लीकेशन आती थी, उसको प्रोसेस करता था, एक नीचे से लेके चाहे ऊपर डा सब अपनी अपनी गुगी लगा लेते थे, लेकिन उसमें वैल्यू एडिशन जीरो होता था. It was merely a matter of time before the permission would be given. Then why do we need to have this process? So removing that simple thing made such a fundamental difference in the telecom industry कि चलो हम अब now we are free to decide what our capital structure should be, who should be our partners, from where we should attract new capital. ये सारी जो बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स एक्सरसाइजेज होती हैं जिसमें कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी मेंटेन करनी पड़ती है, जिसमें कई डिफरेंट डायमेंशंस होते हैं, जैसे ही एक बार एप्लीकेशन जाती थी डीओटी में सब सारी दुनिया को पता चल जाता था और कोई इंसान अपने कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर को चेंज करने की सोच भी नहीं सकता था. इतनी बारीक सी चीज लेकिन उसका इतना प्रोफाउंड इम्पैक्ट, एंड दैट वाज ओनली पॉसिबल बिकॉज ऑफ द माइंडसेट चेंज. बहुत सारे इस तरह की चीज एग्जांपल्स आई कैन गिव यू फ्रॉम रेलवेज, आई कैन गिव यू फ्रॉम आईटी, आई कैन गिव यू फ्रॉम पोस्ट, जहाँ पे सिंपली माइंडसेट चेंज करने से बहुत सारी चीजें सामने आई. So that is one thing which that is the second thing which I'll request, जिसमें हमें थोड़ा सा इंटरनलाइज कर लें इस चीज को, माइंडसेट चेंज को, बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. छोटी छोटी बातें होती माइंडसेट की. इंसान सोचता है कि ऐसा चलता आया इसलिए अभी भी चलते रहना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल डेटा प्रोटेक्शन बिल में one of the things that we used is the use of she and her as a pronoun instead of he, him and his. A small thing. उसमें generally thought process था कि नहीं चलता आया है he, him, his, why should we change? If it is not broken, why should we change? But it sends out a very different message and whole world is today noticing that. अभी कुछ दिनों पहले Davos में था, वहाँ पे people said that this is the first time we have heard this and now we would like our legal teams also to imbibe this as a change. एक चलता आया है इसीलिए वैसा करना है, that thought process must go, we must question. वो mindset की बात होती है. एक बहुत बार बार आता है पॉइंट सामने कि रूल्स में ऐसा है इसलिए ऐसा करना चाहिए. That's a good thing. We have to be a rule-bound society. And being a civil servant, the first thing we look at is what's the rule position. Lekin time has come when the rules which were prepared 30, 40 years back, we must question them. And most of the times we should try and use a zero-based formula and zero-based construct, जिसमें हम एक नई शुरुआत करें कि आज के समय के हिसाब से क्या जरूरत है, उस हिसाब से नए रूल्स बनाएं. रूल्स में है इसलिए कर रहे हैं वो ठीक है, वो ऑपरेशनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू हो गया. बट ऑल ऑफ यू आर एट द टॉप ऑफ द फूड चेन. अपने अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आप लोग सब डिसीजन मेकर्स हैं कि आपके कारण वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस चलते हैं और जिस दिशा में आप लेके जाते हैं उस दिशा में ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की आगे की ग्रोथ होती है या डिमिनिशिंग होती है. तो बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आप आगे का भी सोचें, जहाँ ज़रूरत पड़े वहाँ पे रूल्स को ही चेंज करें. ये सेकंड पॉइंट था. और थर्ड पॉइंट है, एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ आवर इकोनॉमी, एक जस्ट किसी का प्रेजेंटेशन ले लिया, एक किसी से सुन लिया, 2-4 ब्रीफिंग्स ले ली और आगे बढ़ गए, वो तो शायद नहीं चल पाएगा. बहुत डीप जाना ही पड़ेगा अपने अपने सब्जेक्ट में. कोई ज़रूरी नहीं कि हम ऐसे एक्सपर्ट बने जो कि माने इंडस्ट्री में जिनका इमीडिएटली उपयोग हो जाए. नहीं, हमें एक्सपर्टीज का वो लेवल तक तो पहुंचना ही पड़ेगा जहाँ पे हम एक इन्फॉर्म्ड डिबेट कर सकें, एक रियल प्रोज एंड कॉन्स कर सकें. और कोई ज़रूरी नहीं कि उसके लिए आपका उसी डिपार्टमेंट में पोस्टिंग होना हो. मैं आपको अपनी लाइफ से एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. मेरे साथ में रेलवे के फ्रेंड्स हैं. रेलवे के डिस्कशंस में जनरली आई कैन डू अ 8 और 10 लेवल डीप डिस्कशन विद माय कलीग्स. और वो भी ऐसे कलीग्स हैं जो कि 20-20 साल 30-30 साल अपने सब्जेक्ट को समझते आए हैं और उनकी बहुत डीप डोमेन नॉलेज है. एक रेलवे के एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर की डोमेन नॉलेज बहुत हाई होती है कंपेयर टू एनी जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी इन दी अदर मिनिस्ट्रीज. फिर भी 8-10, बिकॉज आई स्टार्टेड अंडरस्टैंडिंग रेलवेज वे बैक इन 2002-2003. अटल जी से मैं पूछता था I worked with Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji also as his private secretary for some time. तो मैं उनसे पूछता था कि सबसे डिफिकल्ट चीज़ क्या है, वो कहते रेलवे. सब सुधार दिया, रेलवे नहीं सुधर पाई. मैंने कहा यार ये क्या चीज़ है. एज अ यंग ऑफिसर आई थॉट कि ये क्या चीज़ है जो सुधरी नहीं अटल जी से भी. सो आई स्टार्टेड ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड इट. तो इवन दो आई नेवर वर्कड इन रेलवेज, just because I took an active interest and kept on getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that subject, today I have a strength which helps me change the course of railways. वो possible है सभी के लिए अगर हम अपने interest के 2-4 subjects उठा लें और उन 2-4 subjects में चाहे हम आज posting हो ना हो, उस पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट से आज डील कर रहे हो नहीं हो, लेकिन जस्ट फॉर आवर ओन सेटिस्फैक्शन एंड आवर ओन डेप्थ वी शुड ट्राई एंड कीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट सब्जेक्ट इन ग्रेटर डेप्थ्स. तो तभी जाके हम जस्टिफाई कर पाएंगे जब भी हमें चांस मिलेगा एट द हायर लेवल्स, स्पेशली फॉर दोज ऑफ यू हु आर यंगर. जब हायर लेवल पे आप पहुंचेंगे देन यू कैन से दैट यस दैट इज देयर आर 2 सब्जेक्ट्स इन विच आई कैन रियली कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट. और आएगा टाइम बहुत जल्दी जब टॉप लेवल पोजीशंस विल ऑल बी बेसिकली डिटरमाइंड बाय एक्सपर्टीज एंड नॉट बाय बीइंग अ मियर जनरल मैनेजर. वो टाइम बहुत जल्दी आने वाला है. आई मीन ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड व्हेनेवर वी लुक एट एनी लार्ज इकोनॉमी विच इज अबव $3 trillion, द की डिसीजन मेकर्स फ्रॉम टॉप टू मिड लेवल आर ऑलवेज स्पेशलिस्ट. बिलो दैट आर पीपल हु आर जर्नलिस्ट एंड they get converted into specialists. तो ये टाइम इंडिया में भी आने वाला है. सो बेटर टू गेट प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर इट. सो ये 3 पॉइंट्स आपके सामने रखना चाहता था. आई विश यू ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट. ऐसा लगता है जैसे अपनों के बीच है, तो बहुत ही अच्छा लगता है. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ऑलवेज बीइंग वेरी वेरी काइंड एंड वेरी एक्सेप्टिव. थैंक यू.
बहुत बहुत आभार माननीय श्री अश्विनी वैष्णव जी, ऑनरेबल यूनियन मिनिस्टर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, आईटी, कम्युनिकेशंस एंड रेलवेज और सभी पैनलिस्ट का. और मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा श्री अमरनाथ जी, एडिशनल सेक्रेटरी, हमारे सभी ऑनरेबल गेस्ट्स को यहाँ मेमेंटो भेंट करने के लिए. Shri Amarnath, Additional Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. Honorable Shri Ashwini Vaishnav जी, देवियों सज्जनों, आपकी करतल ध्वनि के साथ उनका बहुत बहुत आभार, उनकी उपस्थिति के लिए, उनकी गाइडेंस के लिए. श्री अलकेश कुमार शर्मा जी, ऑनरेबल सेक्रेटरी, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड आईटी, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, उनका भी इस अवसर पर बहुत बहुत आभार. श्री के राजा रमन, सेक्रेटरी, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस, बहुत बहुत आभार सर आपका भी. श्री पराग जैन नैन्यूटिया जी, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी, आईटी, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, उनका भी इस अवसर पर बहुत बहुत आभार मेमेंटो भेंट करके हम करना चाहते हैं आपकी करतल ध्वनि के साथ. मिस देवजानी घोष, प्रेसिडेंट नास्कॉम, आभार उनका भी, उनकी उपस्थिति के लिए और उनके विचारों के लिए. और श्री अभिषेक सिंह जी, प्रेसिडेंट एंड सीईओ, नेशनल ई गवर्नेंस डिवीजन, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन एंड आईटी, थैंक यू वेरी मच. बहुत बहुत आभार. बहुत सारी व्यस्तताएं, लेकिन माननीय मंत्री महोदय ने समय निकालकर हम सबको गाइड किया, हमें हमारा मार्गदर्शन किया, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपसे भी है. थैंक यू वेरी मच. और देव सज्जनों, आप सबका भी हम बहुत बहुत आभार इस बात के लिए व्यक्त करते हैं कि इनॉग्रल सेशन के बाद इस पहले प्लेनरी सेशन में आपने अपनी उपस्थिति से हमारे जो गोल्स हैं, हमारे टारगेट्स हैं, हमारी सोच है और जिस दिशा में इस देश को लेकर जाने का एक संकल्प है नए भारत के निर्माण का, उसमें आपने अपनी उपस्थिति से उन तमाम बिंदुओं को बड़ी गहनता से सुना है और उन पर चिंतन किया है और उसको सुनकर भविष्य में उस पर आगे बढ़ने की कोशिश करेंगे. आप सबसे निवेदन है, लंच के लिए पधारें. लंच के लिए 3 जगह अलग अलग अरेंजमेंट्स की गई हैं, सेम अरेंजमेंट्स हैं, लेकिन वेन्यूज आर 3 एंड वन इज द एट्रियम विच इज इन द राइट साइड. इसके अलावा फायर, जो पीछे बैठे हुए लोग, वो फायर में भी उनके लिए अरेंजमेंट्स है. और विज्ञान भवन एनेक्सी जो इस बिल्डिंग के बिल्कुल साथ है, बाहर निकलते ही वहाँ भी लंच के लिए व्यवस्था की गई है. तो आप सभी तीनों डिफरेंट प्लेसेस पर आराम से सेम अरेंजमेंट्स हैं. आप प्लीज़, यू ऑल आर इन्वाइटेड टू हैव लंच एंड आफ्टर द लंच वी विल असेंबल अगेन एट 2 PM फॉर आवर नेक्स्ट यानी सेकेंड प्लेनरी सेशन के लिए हम दोबारा इकट्ठे होंगे और उस सेशन में चर्चा होगी प्रमोटिंग सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी फॉर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट। थैंक यू वेरी मच।